I like to use the hard times in the past to motivate me today. That's one of my favorite quotes from, one of my idols, Dwayne "The Rock" Johnson. And, I take from that quote is that I use things that I went through in my past that may have bothered me or that may have hurt me or caused me any type of anxiety or stress. I use those times to motivate me now, to drive and push me now. So I always remember what it feels like to feel like I'm at the bottom and know that I can overcome that. So what I want to talk to you guys about today is on a little bit more of a personal note, and I want to talk about anxiety. I want to talk about stress. I want to talk about depression, and still being able to shoot for your goals, attack your goals, and fight through any problems and obstacles to continue to chase your dream and to chase the main motive of what you're trying to do when it comes to success. I want to go back to a time that I remember where anxiety, depression, stress was very, very heavy in my life, and that was when I was taken out of my comfort zone, my small bubble, being in my small little rural town. I know I keep referring back to that, but it's a big part of what shaped me and who I am today. So before going to college, I was so used to being with my parents every day, a normal routine of just being at home, going to school, being a regular high school kid, and in a small town where everybody knows everybody knows everybody's name. And I had to prepare to go to college to play football. And a lot of people don't realize that a lot of Division I athletes, especially that you're hearing more about now, the athletes, harming themselves or, just kind of having these tangents where they kind of just, lose all focus and the stress gets to them. A lot of people don't realize the pressure that is under a lot of athletes in these moments, because they're trying to figure out what they're going to do, how they're going to be able to handle themselves, the pressure of going off to school and playing a sport, or going off to school in general, and being successful and trying to ride that wave from coming from high school and then trying to stay consistent. It's a lot on a young kid, 18, 17 years old. So for me, coming from that small town vibe, and then having to go to a big city, especially a city that's known for its violence, known for its crime rate, and being in a town that has basically no crime rate, and literally your best friend's parents kind of raise you too, because that's how small the community is. So you always have constant parental advisor around you all the time. And then kind of leaving the nest, doing my own thing, going to a big city like I did in Norfolk. When I first got to Norfolk, I was out of my element. I was literally the small fish in a huge pond or ocean, I should say, surrounded by sharks. Didn't really know how it was going to turn out, and I wasn't really prepared for that. So it was kind of something I had to mentally prepare myself for, to get ready to be in like this spotlight. Coming from my small town, people were all watching me like, oh, he's coming from here and he's going there. We want to see what he's going to do. And there's absolute people that wanted to see me fail, and that was a lot of pressure on me. My parents, I was the first one in my household to go to college, so also for my parents that was a lot of pressure, because they don't want to see me fail either, and they expect big things out of me. When I first got down there, being in that big city, being around a bunch of people I don't know, being out of my element, it was very stressful. And then having to focus on school and football and thinking about what's going on back home. Is my family okay? Not being able to talk to them as much because I'm in practice, I'm in film, I'm in position meetings, I'm just with my team constantly, which is there's nothing wrong with that, because I was an athlete. It's what I do. I was a competitor. I was an athlete. I was a football player. So that's what I put in the work for, to be in that spotlight. But it's very different coming from a very small town, very small school, and having to deal with that. Football camp, I remember vividly, there was nights sitting there. I had this old Android phone, and the battery kept dying on me and it wouldn't charge. And I just remember completely losing it, breaking down, because I couldn't call home. I didn't know anybody, couldn't talk to anybody. It was the most stressful time of my life, and that caught up with me on the field. When I got on the field, I couldn't focus. And it was something that was mentally just breaking me down. I remember the only thing that really got me through a lot of it was listening to music, and just always, trying to remember why I was there, and, what I went through to get there. And my teammate that was my roommate, I ended up becoming very close with him, so he helped me through a lot of that, just just by being like an older brother to me. He had already been through a lot of it. He was at a whole nother university before coming there, and he was a transfer. And so, he had his own, demons and stresses that he had to battle too. But for me, it was just really hard trying to transition from being in a place where everybody knew me to now being in a huge city where I don't know anybody, and it's a place where you can go to the wrong neighborhood and lose your life, or you can just be in the right place but just the wrong time and you can get shot or something can happen to you. So that was just a lot of stress on me, and I feel like being put in that situation helped me grow a lot. And like I said, it got to a point where I had to kind of look within myself and say, is me putting all of this stress on myself worth it at the end of the day? Because I'm slowly kind of deteriorating from, the main focus and the main goal. And I remember going to my coach one day, and my grades were down and stuff because I just couldn't focus. Like, it's a lot of stress on me. There's a lot of pressure. My parents are telling me to do this, and then I got coaches looking at me because they brought me in there, so they expect a lot out of me. And my teammates, of course, they're going to expect a lot out of me, and I wasn't used to that. So I remember one day going to my coach, and I said, Coach, it's just a lot for me to handle right now. I can't focus in the classroom. I can't go to my labs like I want to because I'm really trying to focus on football, and I feel like if I'm not mainly focusing on football, then I'm seen as like a weak link on the team, and then I also have these things that I'm dealing with mentally where I'm trying to stay focused, but I'm thinking about home and my family, and I'm so used to being around them. And I was like, I really need that time, that separation from the game. I was like, I'm fine with coming to workouts and meetings, but I really got to take myself out the practice field. I was only a redshirt freshman, so I didn't play in any games because I was in the developmental stage where they wanted me to put on weight, get better at my skill set, so I could, be an asset to the team and know how to perform in the field. So that day I talked to my coach. My coach, he put his arm around me. He said, I understand and I respect you a lot. It takes a man to be able to sit and recognize something like that and step away from something that they love, to take care of themselves. So I did that. Grades started going up. Spent a lot of time basically just going to school only, and then focusing on getting better in the weight room and then the workouts. But when it came time to practice and do all that stuff, I wasn't around the team. I spent most of my time in the library or with my friends when they got out of practice that I was really close with. And as time went on, things got a little bit better. I started to become a little bit used to everything, but it was still weird for me to be out of the setting that I was normally used to. And I noticed I was changing a little bit. I had a lot of these moments where I just wanted to be to myself. Like some of my friends, they would try to call me, and I would just let the phone ring, or they'd come knock on my dorm room door, and I would, obviously be in bed, but I wouldn't come answer the door. I'd just act like I wasn't in the room, turn my phone off, so they couldn't get in contact with me. That's because I was just such in like a depressed state from not being in my comfort zone and what I was used to now being where I was. And I was having a hard time of breaking out of that shell. So I tried as much as I can to go home as often as I could, to see my family. And they were like, stick through it. You went through a lot to get here. You fought really hard to get here. And for me, I didn't really like talking about it because I felt like I looked weak, especially being a man. I felt like I was really weak if I was trying to talk to somebody. And I noticed the more and more I talked about it, the better I got about things. And eventually I started to open up, and I started to get used to being out there, and I started to open my mind frame a little bit to as like, okay, so you worked really hard to get here, but now the fact that you're here, you're not comfortable, you're letting it affect you to the point where you can't even stick to the main goal. The main mission is to get out of where you were, a small town, and make something big of yourself. And I started to think about stuff like that, and it hit me that my family worked really hard to see me go through school, play football. It was always a dream to play football since a little kid up through high school, and then to make it to a big school. And it was really cool once I sit back and looked at it. Like, I came from where I was, and I maneuvered and navigated myself through all the obstacles of being from a no-name place, and now I'm playing with guys who who are now in the NFL now, and they're coming from schools like Florida, Boston College, Alabama, Syracuse, and I'm competing with these guys. And I started to think, like, man, this is really cool. Like, what the hell am I doing? Why am I beating myself up so much? I should be proud to be where I'm at. And so as we went through the rest of the season, And of course, I went to the games. I was on the sidelines with the team. I started to open up more. Of course, I wasn't a very talkative kid because I was shy, but I started to open up more. I started to get used to that routine. And like I said, my friends really helped me with that. I started to, get the plays better. I started to do better in the classroom, just get used to that routine. And spring ball comes around. And now I'm ready. I put on like 40, 50 pounds, and now I'm ready to compete. Like, I'm all in now. I remember, I want to say it was March or April of 2014. And I busted my ass all through the season to get better in the weight room and to make myself ready to compete. And I remember my coach coming to me in a position meeting before the first day of pads at spring ball. He's like, Fortune, I'm gonna start you. I feel like you're a guy, one of our best guys. You're big and you're fast and you're starting to get the plays down. I'm gonna start you and we're gonna see how you go. We're gonna see how it goes and how you do, big fella. All right, can you do that for me? Can I trust you? And I was like, yes, sir. I was ready to step up at that point. So we get out there, we're at practice, and now I'm in a different mind frame. Like, I got it now, man. Like, I'm ready to compete. I'm ready to be a Division I football player. I'm ready to be a collegiate athlete. This is what I've always wanted. Practice was going good. Drills were going good. We get into our first team drill. First play, don't do so hot. Second play, get picked up on a block. Third play, I get close to making a tackle, again, get picked up. And I'm getting used to the speed now. This is the first time I'm getting real reps as a football player, a collegiate athlete. And then maybe like the fifth or sixth play, I vividly remember getting up to the line. I got ice, which means it was an audible play, and I had to slide down and be head up on the guard. Ball was snapped. I come off the line, get through to do they run like a little outside like pitch route to the right side, and I'm on the right side of the D-line, which means I'm on the left side of the offense. And I get through the line, I get picked up by a blocker. I'm like, okay, that's going to happen. He's pulling, so I try to pull off, get off him. I get picked up by the fullback. Next thing I know, I hear a pop, instant pain in my knee, hit the ground. Pretty much it, man. Like, I already knew what it was. I'm screaming. Coach is freaking out. Everybody's running over to me. I look around, guys are praying, and I was like, man, like this can't be real. Like, I worked so hard. I got told I was starting on a Division I level. Like, this is what the dream was. And instantly, they put me on the cart, and I already knew what it was. I get back to the training office, and they like, I'm pretty sure you tore your ACL. Literally, everything else, I didn't even care about anything else. All I heard was ACLs torn, and dreams, whole world just came crashing down. Mind you, like, I needed a little bit more work in the classroom, so it was going to be hard to make sure that I compete anyway going into the season unless I did summer classes, but at least that opportunity was there. And I remember just immediately, like, just losing it, crying. Coach came in, he's crying. Other D lineman players, they're coming in, they're crying. They're like, dog, like, we needed you, like, it sucks, like, I'm sorry. And I remember going to the locker room, just sitting there, and I remember going there by myself on crutches. I didn't want anybody to go with me. I was in there by myself, and I'm just sitting there, and I was just like stuck. I just couldn't think, couldn't move. I just sat there. And I remember picking up the phone and calling my mom and my dad, and I was like, I got bad news. And they was like, what? I tore my ACL. And immediately, like, I can just hear my dad in the background just kind of just shattering. My mom, my mom, it was hard for her too. You can, like, hear it in her voice, but it's a price, it's the belly of the beast. It comes with the game, injuries, especially ACL injuries. And me having, weaker knees anyway, because of joint issues, and I had 2 screws in my left knee already, which is the knee that I tore my ACL. I didn't know what was going to happen. So, from there, that's when you got to get MRIs, you got to start doing rehab, and you got to walk around these stupid crutches and immobilizer. And with time, I was in a very, very deep depression, I would say. Like, I wouldn't hang out with my friends. I didn't eat for the longest time. I probably lost like 20 or 30 pounds within a month because I just wasn't eating. One, I didn't feel like hopping around those crutches everywhere to go get food because that sucked. And 2, I was just in a mind state where I didn't really care about eating. I just knew that my career was over for the time being. And I didn't go to classes. I missed exams, all of that. I couldn't make up a lot of stuff, and that was my fault. That was on me. a lot of that stuff I could have done, but I let that affect me so much that I completely just didn't even care about football. I didn't care about school, didn't care about any of that. All I knew is that like my dreams were gone at this point. So I remember coming back home, and I spent a little bit of time at home hanging out with my family, and then I went back to school. And when I got back to school, I told myself, I'm gonna try to be as normal as possible and hang out with my friends and try to, come out of this. And I remember one day just going, damn these crutches, I let the crutches go. Nice guy immobilizer, I'm hobbling around. PT, she freaks out. She's like, what the hell are you doing? Like, you're supposed to be on crutches. And I'm like, no, I don't want the crutches anymore. I don't need those crutches. The crutches are just hindering me from, I know my body, I don't want the crutches. She's like, all right, it's your knee. You're gonna do whatever you wanna do anyway. So forget about the crutches. So a few weeks go by, now we're getting to the time where it's beach weekend, and everybody knows beach weekend, everybody wants to party and do all that stuff. All the colleges come together down in Virginia Beach, and it's just one big party. He said, you know what, I'm not walking around beach weekend with this immobilizer on my knee, so I'm ditching the immobilizer. Probably a dumb decision at the time, but I didn't care. Pull the immobilizer off, I was sick of it. Now I'm walking around, hobbling around, no immobilizer, no support, doing my own thing. I actually get into a situation that night where I have a hotel room, and I'm there with my friends and stuff like that, and these guys pop up, and they're looking for somebody else. One of the guys that was in my room, and they're just asking me where he is, and I'm like, what do you mean? Like, what are you asking me right now? What do you mean, where's he at? And then all of a sudden, next thing I know, I got a Glock in my face. There's a Glock 9mm sitting on my forehead. And I'm thinking, I've never been in this situation before, but I was just so angry at the world in general, and the fact that I couldn't play ball anymore. I felt invincible in that time, so I'm like, no, you're not coming in my room. And mind you, it's like 4 or 5 guys. It may have been more, but it's kind of like a blur. A little bit of it was a blur just because it was just so crazy and so much happened. I remember this guy touching his gun on my forehead, and my boy that I was really close with, I remember him immediately grabbing me and telling me like, yo, you need to calm down. What are you doing? You gonna get us killed? Like, what are you doing? And I'm like, no, you're not getting in my room. The guy's like, empty your pockets. I'm like, no, I'm not emptying my pockets. I'm ready to just fight this guy right here. Like, I don't care, gun or not, didn't care. So my boy, he grabs me, he starts pulling me, trying to pull me out of this situation. Mind you, if I was in the right mind where I wasn't so angry at everything, I would have probably just got out of the situation in the beginning, just walked away as soon as the guy put the gun in my face, because that could have been my life, my friend's life, everybody in that room's life. But either way, those guys are going to do what they want anyway, because they're overpowering us in that moment, because he has a weapon, I don't. And I remember my boy pulling me, just like yanking me, trying to get me out the way. I'm like, no, get off. And I remember grabbing my boy and just throwing him up against the wall. And mind you, we're like 6 or 7, 8, maybe 8 floors up. We're in like this hotel, like complex or whatever, on the beach. And I remember my boy, I grabbed him, I threw him against the wall. And I remember he's fighting with me to try to keep me from, approaching these guys. Like, all these guys have weapons. I don't know who these guys are. I've never seen them in my life. Apparently they knew somebody that was hanging out in my room with me. They knew him. And my boy's like, bro, you gotta stop. You won't get us all killed. Like, he's emotional, I'm getting emotional. I'm like, no. So finally he gets me out further down the balcony toward the stairwell. And he like pushes me into the stairwell, and then me and him are in there just yelling at each other. And I remember vividly sitting on the step, and I just lost it. Like, everything basically that built up within me over that whole course from going to school to like tearing my ACL literally all came out in that stairwell. Like, I don't think I've ever cried like that in my life. And I just sat there and just cried, and I was just talking about things that bothered me, like before, like when I first got to school, like everything was coming out right there, because it was just, I guess, being in that moment, having that gun in my head, made everything just come like full circle to the table. And he was in there with me, and then the girl I was dating at the time, we had dated all from like when we were younger, all through high school and stuff. So she came out, and I just remember her crying, and I jumped up in a rage. I was like, why are you crying? And apparently the guys with the guns, went into the room and just robbed everybody. Now, mind you, I still got all my stuff. My boy still has all his stuff, just because the situation was so tumultuous that like there was no time for me to dig in my pockets and take my stuff out, because if the more I would have took more time to sit there and argue with these dudes, I might not be sitting in front of this camera today. But I remember her coming out, she's freaking out, her phone's gone, wallet's gone, purse gone. These guys just stripped everybody in the room, took everything. And I remember getting a phone call and one of my boys freaking out, and he's like, I heard you got jumped, are you all right? Because yeah, I'm bleeding and stuff, but that's just from the scuffle between me and my boy and him trying to get me out of the situation, which I really appreciate and thank God for him. But I remember everybody calling me like, I heard you got jumped, I heard you got shot and all this other stuff. I'm like, no, I'm fine. Some guys just like robbed the room and all this other stuff, and I guarantee those guys probably weren't ever caught, just because it was like a normal thing down there. But I remember that moment really defining and putting my life in perspective as far as what I want to do and how I need to be more thankful for what the situations I am being able to be put in, especially now to the point where I can help other people, teach other people, tell them about what I've been through, and hopefully that uplifts them and inspires them to keep pushing no matter what happens, and always remember that there's always a brighter side to what you're going through now. A big thing I've always remembered just growing up in church and stuff, they're saying you got to go through valleys in order to get to peaks, because you know it's just how life works. You got to go through obstacles. Those are the only things that make you stronger. Like in my last video I said, use your weaknesses and look at your weaknesses like strengths, because it's all more wisdom, more experience. The more experience you have, there's no greater teaching tool than experience. So I remember coming out of that situation just being, you know, a better person, a bigger person, because the next day after, you know, we all went to sleep later on in the night, way later on in the night when everything calmed down, I remember the next day sitting with my boys and just talking about everything. And it was funny because a lot of stuff I couldn't even remember because I like blacked out. I was so like just out of it. And I remember telling my parents about it later, and my parents were so disappointed. And it just made me think, like, you know, you can't take life or situations for granted. I let my anger kind of affect everybody else, and that's one thing I want to tell you guys is no matter what you're going through, just remember you have people around you that care about you. I care about you, and use those moments to make yourself better. Look at those moments like I went through that for a reason, because it's making me better now. You know, I put out the last video and I had people reach out to me. It's like, hey, I was getting ready to drop out of school, like literally sitting there thinking about dropping out of school, but I watched your video and it helped me, you know, look at the bigger picture. Like, you know, I came to school for a reason. I want to be successful. If I drop out, it's just going to hinder me. I'm not saying that you have to go to school in order to be successful, because I dropped out of school. Now, am I currently taking classes now? Yeah, because, you know, that's just the goal for me. But I am a college dropout. I did leave school, and I did say, you know what, school is not for me. And then I did have a long time where I wasn't doing anything. You know, I wasn't lifting. I wasn't built like this. I was a big guy because I played football, but I wasn't competing in anything. I wasn't doing much at all. And I sat around for a long time just trying to figure myself out. And there's nothing wrong with that. Sometimes you need that self-reflection like that. But I sat and I thought about everything. I learned so much from all the stuff that I went through that has put me in the position that I am now because of experience, because of wisdom, and just having that support and people behind me that was, you know, helping me get through everything, because that's really important. The main thing I want to teach to you guys, that I want you guys to take from this, the main food for thought that I want you guys to soak up from this is, no matter what situation you get put in, no matter how bad it is, you always have to remember that there is a brighter side, and that things will get better, and that your current situation doesn't define your future. That's what I want you guys to take from this. I've been through some crazy situations, as I just talked to you guys about, and I still made it to where I am now, and I'm still growing, still elevating as I go. Every crazy situation I get put in, it's all just going to boost me higher and higher on the other end, to keep fighting, keep pushing, and to keep striving for the main purpose in life, and that's to inspire and grow myself, change lives, and then also change and better myself within doing that. So I hope you guys take a lot from this video. I hope this video puts something in your head that tells you like, hey, I'm in this time right now, but I'm still gonna be successful. I'm still gonna fight. I'm still gonna scratch and claw and get to where I want to be. If Cliff did it, I can do it, because it's things could always be worse. So always remember that. Remember to stay hungry, stay humble, stay focused. Thank you guys, and always remember #Let's Work. Peace.